Hey, what's up guys, Alex here. Thank you for checking this video and welcome to the episode number 27 of the series of tutorials on how to build a premium theme for WordPress. Welcome again. In this tutorial, we're gonna finally complete our gallery post format by adding the caption here for the image, maybe creating a nice animation here to reveal the caption, and by cleaning up a little bit the code, because right now we have this mess of HTML and PHP all together. Is not really what we want, but we're gonna take care of this later. So first of all, of course, let's access our content-gallery.php. There, it's our current file that we're working on, and we have to add the caption area. We already have this code. We already created a section, an image with a caption overlaid on top, and this is the result. Like, this is our caption. So let's open that file and let's grab the exact same code, the exact same structure, because we don't want to rewrite or recode anything from scratch. So let's grab this entry excerpt space image caption class container. Let's copy that. Let's put it inside the item container because we're gonna have one caption per item based on the picture. So let's indent here. We don't want, of course, the excerpt, and we can access the caption inside the attachments array. We already have that information. If we do just some simple tests, we do our usual var dump and we print the current attachments, that is the attachments with the current number. Save it, we go back in our front end, refresh, we're gonna see all a bunch of gibberish here, but if you check and if you crawl inside the information here, you're gonna see we have a value called post excerpt, that inside there's this text because I already insert a caption inside the image. So the caption of an image is stored inside the object, the post object of that specific image as a post excerpt. That is the exact same name as an excerpt of a blog post or the excerpt on a page. Basically, WordPress uses the same variables and attributes name inside a post object and treats everything as a post. So a post, a page, an attachment, a custom post type, are all posts. So we have the same code, the same attributes, and the same logic to access specific information. So let's simply do that. Let's remove this and let's just echo this variable, but let's access inside the array. And instead of retrieving the ID like we did before, we have to just retrieve the post underscore excerpt because it's the value that we saw. Let's save it. Let's go back here, let's refresh, and now we have the excerpt of this image. The other image doesn't have an excerpt, so nothing is showing up. Here it's all attached, it's all like horrible on the ground because by default, when the excerpt here, this function gets printed, automatically this function wraps whatever text around a paragraph. So we style this stuff with the paragraph, we style the image caption with a paragraph container. So let's just add these p tags around and we're gonna have exactly the same style. Yes, and of course we have also the gradient that we applied here, and we have exactly the same style. One thing though, so if we access our backend and we go into the post, the gallery post format is the one we are working on. You see here, we don't have any caption, but if we access the media library and we select the picture, the first one, you see here in the caption area, this is the caption that is showing up in the front end. But this is not the caption used inside a blog post because a caption can be attached to a specific image, so as his own native caption. But you can also, if you click this edit icon here in the inline edit container content editor of WordPress, you can write another completely different and separated caption. And here comes a little problem. So if you write, this is another caption, WordPress will automatically create a shortcode and will wrap around our image and this caption inside the HTML structure. So if we access the text visualization here, you see here, this is our image. This is our device lab image, the first one of our slider. And the caption is not saved anywhere in the database. It's just simply written in line inside our content and wrapped around this caption shortcode generated by WordPress. So this is super tricky. There's absolutely no way to access this information, the caption inside the content editor, inside the content, through the loop, the attachments loop, through the attachments object. If we want to access the specific caption, the unique caption used by the user inside the blog post, we should create a function that crawls, that grabs the content, crawls the content for wherever caption container, caption wrapper, strip everything with a regex like that preg replace all the content that we don't need and just maintain the caption. This is not super complicated, but it's kind of annoying and it's kind of an extra step that we're gonna do later. During this tutorial, we're gonna optimize, we're gonna create the option to select or the native caption or the caption used inside the editor, but be aware that if you follow this tutorial and you insert the caption like I did by editing here and writing a caption inside the image details, your caption that you wrote in this way, it's not gonna show up in the front end. So if you wanna edit a caption, just leave this page, I didn't do any major editing, you have to insert the caption inside the information of the image. So for example, like dog looking outside, that's the name of this picture. I'm so creative when it comes with captions name. So let's open these other two. And this one is chilling on the couch. And this other one is piano dude. This was an amazing artist, by the way. I was like just a blast looking at this concert. Anyway, now we saved the caption inside the database, inside the attachment post object. So now if we refresh, our function can access all those specific information inside the attachment post URL. But this was a like generic heads up. Just be aware if you insert it in line, it won't show up. Now I want to create a nice transition. First of all, I want to update a little bit this code because I don't really like the transition of this gradient now that I see it. So what I want to do, I want to change a little bit the background to extend it and see the straight line that separates the caption container from the picture. Exactly like I did in my design file. Here you can see a straight line that divides. It's like way clear that there's something and not this weird thing. So to edit, just like the transparent, the first parameter is 0, so it means it starts from the top. Let's select this image caption and let's access our style file, the SCSS file, and let's check since SCSS. Let's search for image caption. There you go here. Background gradient. Oh, we're using a partial, of course, because we are super smart. I completely forgot. So let's use, is that a placeholder? Yes. We could put a little bit more visibility. So let's say 0.2 instead of complete opacity to our gradient. So let's go here. Let's refresh. Oh, it's not working because I forgot to activate the compiler. So let's solve this problem. Let's open our terminal and let's try to use a SASS -- watch our SASS folder, our CSS folder as a destination, and -- style. I want to use a compressed style. And now it's compiling, recognize already the editing. So let's go back here, should be now visible. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Way more visible, way more clear. That's really, really good. So now let's create some animation. I want this caption to not be visible until I go on rollover. So let's do that. And first also, let's check what's the font size. 17. Let's scale down the font size to 14 pixels. So let's do that. only if the image caption, let's do font size, it's 14 pixels. Let's save it, go back. Oh yes, way more tight. And of course this system applied and updated the style also for the image post format, because we're using a smarter component-based way of styling. We don't have to repeat the style multiple times in different options in different locations. So this is more tight and I like it way more. So now let's add our transition. First of all, we have to animate the image caption only if we are inside the gallery post format. So let's copy this stuff and let's go inside our gallery post format. So sunset format gallery class. Let's paste here our entry excerpt, but we have to remove all this stuff because we don't need to edit what we already have. Let's just copy the transform and include transform. Basically, these mixins that we created before, when we used it before, we're gonna use the same, especially the animate. We wanna update and animate the transform option. So we are gonna leave exactly this statement. We don't need to update it. The transform include mixing. We have to update. We don't wanna use the scale, but we wanna use the translate Y. So let's use translate Y, that is a CSS3 declaration, and here we want to go 100%. So we are saying, I don't remember if it's positive or negative. Let's update. Yes, it's good. Basically, we're saying to this image caption inside, of course, the sunset format gallery, to move this container, the image caption, to its 100% of height at the bottom. So we are saying translate only on the y-axis, so the vertical axis of 100%. So just move it completely down. And because the container that it's inside the container of the image, it has an overflow hidden, we're not seeing our excerpt getting pushed down. If we access the inspector and we check just one image, we open the item, we remove the translate Y and we put it to 0. See, just appeared and we have this animation. Look at that, put it 0 and appears. That's so beautiful. So what I have to do, I have to just check a rollover effect. If I go on rollover on the image, I can just include a translate Y of 0. So let's do that. Here we wanna add the item, because if we go on rollover of the item container, not everything. So let's go on hover. Let's go here and we can repeat these two stuff. Let's remove the animation. We don't have to re-include the animation. The animation is declared only on the standard state, that the initial state. We have to just update the translate Y to 0. Let's save it. Let's go back here, refresh. Now if we go on rollover, sweet movement, look at that. Reveal, reveal, yes, reveal. That's so good. That's really, really good. And one thing that we could do, we could also completely remove the item selector and say that just if the mouse goes inside a gallery post format, this thing is gonna appear, because here there's an issue. Of course, these are two separated elements, one on top of the other. So if I go and roll over on one, it's not gonna recognize the rollover on the other one. So let's remove this issue by, instead of item, just put the ampersand. So we're saying that if the mouse goes inside the sunset format gallery on rollover, this is gonna happen. Let's refresh. Inside, see, I'm going inside a post and the excerpt is revealing. And also if I'm clicking here, the excerpt is constantly visible, and that's what I want. And of course, this edit is not affecting in any way the image post title, because our CSS is properly structured. So that's really good, and that's what we wanted. Now, what I want to do, as I said before, I can close my CSS because I don't need it anymore, and also the content image. I want to clean this code, because here what we did, we meshed together, we mixed all together PHP and HTML. We are using kind of a long function and checks, and we are calling other function, we are calling inline functions. It's good. This is not wrong, but it's not a totally absolutely proper way of doing. We should try to keep as much as possible functions separated from the HTML markup. So let's do that. Basically, let's just copy the entire section here. Copy this. Let's go inside our usual ink folder and inside the theme supports.php file. And inside here, we can create another function called function sunset underscore get underscore bs underscore slides. So we know that this function is used to retrieve some slides. Let's paste for now all this stuff. We're gonna clean it in a moment. So we know that the information that we absolutely know and they absolutely need to use this function is the attachment. So let's use this as a parameter to pass to this function. We have these parameters now. We can use this count. Okay, that's good. Let's start with a 4. Let's indent all this stuff inside the 4, and maybe let's create a little bit of space between the variable and inside the 4. We can have the active, that's really good. We can have these, all these stuff are still gonna work because we're inside the for loop, we're inside the attachments. We have the attachments passed in the variable, in the function. So let's keep going. Something that we have to absolutely change is this. We cannot put HTML inside a function. That's like kind of insane stuff to do. But the information that we have to maintain and we have to pass with this function are these: the class, the get attachment URL or just the attachment URL, next and previous image thumbnail, and the excerpt. So to pass, in order to pass all this stuff with a function, with just a single call function to our front end, our HTML, we have to store all this loop for as many times as this loop is going to get executed inside an array that we're going to pass in our front end. So let's do that. First of all, let's create the usual output variable, and let's define this output variable as an empty array. So we are saying this output is an empty array. It's not a function, it's not a single variable, it's just an array, but it's totally empty. So we can use that. Let's go inside the for loop and let's start defining all the variable that we have to save. So first of all, let's open the output. Let's call the output. Let's put inside the square brackets the I, that is our counter. So we're saying that inside the output at position 0, because the loop starts at 0, we want this information. We want another array of value. And the array of value is going to be the following. First of all, we have to define the attribute name that we want to call. First, it's going to be the class, because we already know that the class is going to be this active variable that during the first one is going to be active, during the rest of the loop is going to be empty. So it's good, we can retrieve this. Comma, then we specify the other function. Actually, let's organize it better and let's use this logic here. So we go on a new line every time we have a new attribute. It's way cleaner, way easier to read. The second attribute is the URL of the image. So let's just use URL as a parameter. And let's, equal an arrow. Actually here, let's use the tab. So with a tab, it's easier to maintain everything aligned to the same column. So it's just easier. And here we can return this stuff because we don't have to do anything crazy. The only thing, just remember to not echo, because if you echo, it's gonna print on the screen. So we wanna just get this value inside these attributes. So let's do that, comma. The third parameter that we wanna pass, actually the third and fourth parameter are next image and previous image. So let's just use next underscore image. It's equal to this variable without echoing, of course, and the other parameter is the prev underscore image. It's gonna be, of course, equal to the previous image variable. Just really simple. The last parameter that I want to pass is the excerpt. And we could use excerpt, we could use caption if we want. Is like a custom thing. I don't know. We can use caption if you want to keep it consistent, because this is technically the post excerpt of the attachment. You could write excerpt, but caption is fine as well. Doesn't matter. Just remember to also in this way not echoing the value, but just retrieving and using this value. And here we can avoid to put a comma. You can end with a comma in your array. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to trigger any error. And we can remove, we can delete all this stuff. Actually, let's delete also the opening and close tags of PHP. Let's close and the end for. And now what's going to happen here, we're going to have the output value 0 with all the information, then 1, all the information, 2, blah, blah, blah. It's going to keep going until we reach the count of the attachments. So now what we have to simply do, we have to return $output. So now we have this beautiful function that is doing everything we're doing here except printing the HTML. But this is way cleaner, way easier to update, and also is reusable. If we grab this function and we put it somewhere else in another file, we don't have to reuse the same markup. We can use this function to retrieve the same information and organize them in a different markup. This is just great. This is the beautiful thing about WordPress, PHP, functions, and procedural code. Of course, we can use this also in object-oriented code with classes, but we're gonna see this in maybe the next series. Let's save it. Let's just check our front end if we broke something. So let's refresh. Always check after you write a long function or you write some functionalities like that, your front end, if you have some PHP error. So you will recognize immediately if you trigger some error, you wrote something wrong, you wrote a typo or missing semicolon and the usual stuff. Now we have to update our front end. So we know that we have to pass the list of attachments, and the list of attachments, we don't need anymore the variable here, but we need just the returning functions array from this function. So we can use this. First of all, let's grab this name and let's assign it to a variable. And the variable is going to be attachments. I want to use this variable. So let's use attachments. It's equal to this function, the new function that we just created. And inside we have to pass, as we created here, the full list of attachments. So we have to pass whatever output, whatever array is returning this function. So we can just simply pass the returning value of this function by inputting the function inside. This is just great. Let's remove this variable that we don't use anymore. Actually, we are still using it, but inside here. And now here we can scrap all this stuff, but we can use the simple for each loop that we were using before in the previous sessions that we edited into a for loop, but now we can reuse it back because we have all the information inside separated. We don't have to access inside the array, inside the variable. We can do it inside the theme support page. So here we can do a simple for each loop. For each, let's basically rewrite what we had before. Attachment has $attachment. Boom. Let's close. Oops, let's close here PHP, and here we can close with and for each. Let's save it. We can remove all this stuff, and we can also indent back this thing. And let's remove all these variable, or instead of removing, actually, let's replace all these variable and all these function with whatever we have inside an attachment. So we know that inside the output, we have class URL, next image, previous image, a caption. So let's use those attributes to retrieve those values. So first is attachment, but instead of using this format to access the post object, because WordPress is by default passing an object, we are passing a simple array. So we have to access the current attribute of our array. To access a current attribute of our array, we have to use the square brackets, and inside has a string. Let's pass the unique name that we define for our attribute. In our case, this one is class. So let's copy this one. We don't want to rewrite it 1,000 times. Let's pass it here. This one attribute is URL. This one attribute is next underscore image. This one is prev underscore image. And the last one is caption. And that's it. Let's save it. Let's go back in our front end. Let's refresh and finger crossed that we didn't break anything. Great, it's still working, Like, you didn't see any change, but I swear I refreshed this page and it's working. Just to prove that it's working, let's comment for a second the URL. So we won't have any image printed inside this stuff. Yeah, it's just an error. Sorry. I should comment also the echo. When you decide to comment something, also don't echo a comment because it's gonna trigger an error, as you see. So here we have the slides, we have the thumbnail because we're printing those, but we don't have the URL because we hide the URL. So let's put back the URL. Let's refresh. And everything's working. So what we did, basically, we didn't create anything new. We didn't do anything super crazy, but we optimized our code and we created a structure way more scalable and way more maintainable than it was before. So it's pretty much it for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And if you want, just take a couple of minutes to check the support me page on my website, where you can find all different ways to support me, support my channel, and help me to do better videos and better tutorials for you. Thank you again, guys, for checking this video, and until the next lesson, as usual, happy coding!